everybody.
Hi, Lizzie.
Hi. Didn't see you there. Thank you all for coming out. The True Story, September 2023. That's amazing. We've been doing this since May of 2015. I am so thankful to EST Los Angeles for being a creative home for me and for many of us here, and for allowing me to develop this program that I hope serves many. It's been amazing for me. And what touches me most really is that my writers trust me with their truths. You know, when we first started doing this, Karen Rizzo inspired the title. She just said, let's just say true story. Because then when you say true story, you're about to just say something true or just embellish on it. So I credit her for kicking us off. It's a great idea, and it's gone for 8 strong years. And we can continue, and I'm saying this to our folks at home and for all of you here, when you have the opportunity, please go to our website and support the program. We run on donations. We're a nonprofit, and I want this program to grow because the writers are amazing. My artists are fantastic, and I want them to be heard. So thank you all for being here, my writers. Thanks for all the work you put in the past few months putting this one together. The theme is the starting line. And I was really excited about this theme myself because I love the first line of books. It's where I go for inspiration. And I'm a hoarder of samples of books on my Amazon Kindle app, just so I can read the first line of books until one of them just sucks me in and I actually start reading the book. Here's some awesome ones, and you're going to recognize some. Call me Ishmael. I am an invisible man. Ships at a distance have every man's wish on board. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. This is the house. When Mary Lennox was sent to Misselthwaite Manor to live with her uncle, everybody said she was the most disagreeable-looking child ever seen. It is the truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. The king is dead. Long live the queen. Whether I turn out to be the hero of my own life or whether that station will be held by anyone else, these pages must show. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born, what my lousy childhood was like, and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me, and all that David Copperfield kind of crap, but I don't really feel like going into it if you want to know the truth. I could do this for hours. The place where the best writers start and take us on their journey, and it ends where it naturally should end. And as I was perusing these first lines, I decided to pick up my favorite book on writing, Annie Lamott's Bird by Bird, because I haven't read it in such a long time. And I couldn't remember where it started or where she started. And I hope to share a little inspiration with my readers. So I picked it up again, and she starts like this. The first thing I tell my new students on the first day of a workshop is that good writing is about telling the truth. And I was all, what? I say that? I host True Story? Oh my God, I'm so smart. Sometimes. I mean, I'm definitely smart sometimes, because I am smart about this anyway. The best stories and the best writing are built on our own truths, and sharing those truths change us. We're no longer alone in them. We find community in language and shared experience, especially if that experience was weird and you wish it never happened. And then you find out that somebody else had something really similar happen or the same thing happen, and then you're all, oh, okay, yeah, no, I knew that was normal. And today is no different. It's as truthful, as brave, as funny, and as quirky and moving as ever. And we will be sharing our stories in all different mediums, friends, through the written word, through music, and through illustration. And each night begins with its own memorable starting line, and I'm entrusting that to our dear friend, Raphael Clemens.
I've always had an adventurous nature. I love trying different foods, exploring varieties of music, movies, theater, and art. It's this experimental part of my personality and an unhappy time in my life which led me, for a short period of time, to join a cult. I was attending summer school at the University of Tennessee. It was July 1983 on a beautiful dogwood bloomed early evening, and I was returning to my dorm from the cafeteria when a man approached me. He had short, dark hair with a mullet cut and a pencil-thin mustache. He looked like Sean Penn from the Woody Allen movie The Sweet and Lowdown. Sean Penn says hi. I say hi. He starts the conversation. He told me his name was Jeff. Jeff made an immediate impression on me. He was charismatic and friendly. He made me feel relaxed and heard. Jeff was the kind of person I would want as a friend. So his personal qualities and whatever we discussed was enough to convince me to go to a Bible study with him. At that meeting, I learned that Jeff was a member of a group called Maranatha Campus Ministries. Maranatha was a Pentecostal, charismatic Christian church founded in 1970 by a man named Bob Weiner. It was a multiracial, youth-driven church that promised a personal relationship with God would solve all my problems. And at that time in my life, I thought Maranatha was what I needed. During my first church service, which took place in a rented room at the University Student Center, the pastor asked me if I wanted to be baptized. I said yes. My baptism took place in the bathroom of the community house that Jeff shared with some of the other church members. I was fully submerged in an old-fashioned clawfoot tub, and I was born again on August 11, 1983. Very quickly, I soon became involved in church activities. I felt like part of a family, and I participated in the recruitment of new members. We would all gather on the lawn in front of the School of Music, and we would sing songs and pass out flyers inviting people to attend services. All the while, I would keep regular touch with Jeff, either by calling him on the phone or I'd visit him at the community house. Now, shortly after joining, I began noticing things. Maranatha was sucking up all of my free time. It was suggested that I move into the community house so I could be with the group 24/7. I was told that the church considered dating a sin and that members were not allowed to have romantic attachments. If a member was interested in a person, and it always had to be a fellow member, the church followed a practice called the dating revelation. If a member believed God had spoken to him or her about a marriage, he or she would pray with the pastor about whether that word was truly from God. Pastors would then send the names to Maranatha's regional office for prayer. And sometimes Bob Weiner himself would weigh in on some of these requests. Ultimately, if Bob Weiner gave the okay, the couple would then be allowed to marry. I also learned that any music that was not Christian music was forbidden. Jeff gave Stevie Wonder as an example. I was told that even though Wonder's music sounded great, because it wasn't Christian, it was evil. The church practiced speaking in this nonsensical language during services. I was encouraged to speak in tongues, with the understanding that the Almighty Himself was talking through me. I couldn't understand what was being said, and I was never possessed by any spirit. When I voiced my concerns, I was told to mimic what everybody else was doing, and understanding would come. I did what I was asked. But I never understood the language, nor did I ever feel possessed by an outside force. I felt like a fraud. The pastor also told the congregation who to vote for in upcoming elections. We were told to vote for specific candidates and ballot measures. Now, all the candidates were social conservatives, and the ballot proposals were these punitive and repressive measures that I never believed in and would never support. Seeds of doubt were planted in my mind as I continued to participate with Maranatha. One day, a fraternity brother contacted me and asked if I had read the latest issue of Newsweek magazine. I told him I hadn't seen it, and I asked, well, what's in it? He wouldn't tell me, but he encouraged me to pick up a copy. The magazine focused on religion on college campuses, and one of the stories was about cults on campuses. One of the cults that was highlighted was Maranatha. I read the article and I felt cold. It confirmed every single concern that I already had. That very day, I called the pastor from my dorm room and I told him I was leaving the church. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I just said, this isn't for me. And I didn't call Jeff because I was afraid he would talk me into staying. The pastor, he tried to talk me out of it. And before I hung up the phone, he said I was making a horrible mistake. The next day, I woke up feeling sick. I felt like I had caught the worst flu of my life. I immediately thought God was punishing me for leaving Maranatha. I tossed and I turned in bed for hours. I was coughing, crying, snot was coming out, and just like all out of every orifice. I thought I was dying. I finally managed to sleep late in the evening, physically and emotionally exhausted. I woke up the next day, and I wasn't dead. The sun was shining, my flu was gone, and the next day came and went, and the next. I ended the school quarter flunking 3 out of my 4 classes, but I rebounded the next quarter. I wasn't struck down by God. Maranatha Campus Ministries disbanded just a few years later due to growing complaints made by former members and a mounting bad media coverage. The experience turned me off of Christianity totally, and my spiritual journey continued for a few decades until I was introduced to Nichiren Buddhism. In Buddhism, I found a spiritual practice that was humanistic in nature and not based on fear, superstition, or authoritarianism. It's a beautiful practice that makes me happy, and it helps me contribute good to society. But I did grow to appreciate my time in Maranatha because it showed me what I didn't want in a spiritual practice, and it prepared me to accept what Buddhism had to offer.
Christopher, should we move this? What do you want to do?
I don't know. No, we can leave it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Do you want to move now?
Yeah, I'll do this. Sorry, stall. What was that?
Christopher's gonna play some music.
Okay, that's the stall.
Good?
Yeah, I'm good. Just be a second. Hey everybody, I'm gonna play something new. But before I do, I have to talk, I think, right? Because
Well-
it's a true story.
Christopher has been, but how long have you played?
Sorry?
How long have you written music?
Oh, since I was eight 18. I bought my first guitar on my 18th birthday, and I started that day.
So Christopher has been, along with Troy, has been producing True Story for me. Christopher's handled the live stream and between the two of them, the cameras and everything that happens around here. He's my ride or die. He makes everything happen. And I'm so thankful to him. And he keeps saying, oh, I want to play some music. Would that work? And I was like, yeah, I really think it would work. So this is the first of many, I hope.
We'll see.
All right.
We'll see if I can invite it back. Hey, everybody. I am Christopher. I don't know how this seems like I have to adjust it. So this piece, I started sort of working on, and then it became clearer after I felt inspired actually by Raphael's story during rehearsal, because it reminded me of the time that I almost joined the cult, but went into theater instead. That's actually Lizzie's writing, and it's almost true. It's so perfect that I want it to be true. What actually happened was I left substitute teaching, and I joined AmeriCorps for a year here in California, in San Jose, and my experiences during that year are what motivated me to actually quit theater for 5 years while I was done finishing college. And then as soon as I graduated, I moved to the biggest city in the state of Maine and did theater straight for nearly, oh, there's the air conditioning. Okay, cool, so I'm just gonna move right here. Okay. We don't need that bucket. I did theater straight for nearly a decade before moving here to LA. I may not return to a church, but I did come home to theater. Okay. So this is a piece called Something to Hold. And I'll tune the B string before the next piece.
It's lovely. That was so dreamy.
Oh, you're dreaming.
Yeah. Next, my dear friend Terry Fallon, fresh back from Norway, right?
That's right. How did your way in Norway?
You said it, not me. Hi.
starting point. It's not starting point,
Starting line.
starting line. So this summer, I was watching the track and field world championship with my son-in-law. And we talked about how these world-class athletes all had incredible coaches and the best gear. The results were striking. They were not winning by seconds. They were winning by 0.000 fraction of a second. And they were so close because they all had the same advantages. And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if we all had great coaches and the best gear to run the human race? How wonderful that even the runners in the back are considered world class and the losers have nothing to be ashamed of. Then I imagine myself at the starting line, in this figure thing, and the gun goes off, and I stumble, fall flat on my face, like, and then I imagine myself going over the hurdles and like hitting all of them and like straddling them and falling over and over and over and over. And I sighed, and I thought, oh, here come those old thoughts again. The ones that played out in my thinking most of my life because of a lie that was impressed upon me when I was a child. Okay? Now, I certainly did not have a good coach growing up. If my parents had been my coaches for, running in the track, they would be out in the parking lot arguing while I was trying to get to the race on time, missing a shoe. I mean, that's the way it would have been. And seriously, I've spoken often enough about my not so great upbringing. 2 teenage parents, alcoholism, neglect, chaos, and dysfunction with poverty rounding it all out. I've heard people say, we were poor, but we didn't know it. Well, we were poor and we knew it, like big time. And there was only one shining period in my childhood when I was happy and content. It was when I was in 3rd and 4th grade and we lived in a bustling little town and I had freedom. I roamed the streets, roller skated, swam in the pool, hung out at the pool hall, and went to movies. Mom ran a bar, I could run in and grab $1 and go get a burger. There was a college in the town, and it was 1968, 69 on full display. I wore bell bottoms and a leather headband. I sang with Janis Joplin and Tina Turner every day. I was a women's liberator. I knew women weren't equal to men. I witnessed the men boasting and beating their chests that Bobby Riggs was going to beat Billie Jean King in the Battle of the Sexes. And then they turned around and claimed she only won because he was too old. And that told me a lot about the world. I watched the white men around me go nuts over their white wives' attraction to the gorgeous Cassius Clay, today known as Muhammad Ali. My family had problems, big problems, but most of my friends' parents were just like mine. My friends were all dealing with the same shit, and no one looked down on it. It was ordinary. But my parents' arguing became a divorce. My father became our enemy who punished us financially. We had to leave everything. Mom started over by buying a bar in the middle of nowhere, and my descent into hell began. She moved us into a Stephen King novel. We were thrown into an insular rural community where everyone was Czechoslovakian and Catholic. They all had similar names and were related to each other one way or another. And this is where you cue the banjo music. I am serious. And even before she opened the bar, people were dropping by to get a look at us. Word has spread like wildfire, A. Divorcee, with 3 kids and an infant. We were not Catholic. We were not Czech. We were definitely outside. Women didn't want their husbands around that. For the next 5 years, 5th grade to 10th grade, these people made my life a living hell. I arrived a confident women's liver and I left a confused, damaged mess. When we went to school to sign in, my sister and brother were sent home because their clothes were not within dress code. They were wearing jeans. That same day, my new teacher explained to the lunchroom woman who sold lunch tickets that I was on the free lunch program. She gave me such a look of disgust that I burned with shame. I was furious that my mother was not paying for my lunches like she used to. I saw that look on that woman's face every day at lunch for the next few years. I saw that look on almost every adult's face that I came into contact with. The message was clear. You are trash. You are low class. You do not belong here. The people who came into the bar might have smiled at my mom's face, but as soon as they were out of the bar, they were talking behind her back. She acted as though she didn't know it, but we, her kids, we all knew it. Maybe she ignored it so that she could carry on making a living, but we kids were embarrassed by living in the back of a bar. We were angry that there was no way to defend against being looked down upon. There was no way to correct the rumors and the gossip. We raged inside against our dad. We became very, very angry kids. My brother was expelled from school. My older sister kept her head down, stayed on the honor roll, and remained a pariah with no friends. She also became a raging, insufferable bitch. I tried to earn approval through impeccable behavior until 7th grade. After being slapped full force by my teacher for taking Christ out of Christmas. Yes, Christ was taken out of Christmas by me in 7th grade. I did that. I put Merry Xmas instead of Merry Christmas on a poster because when I did it the other way, the glue and the sparkles made it unreadable. It was a design choice, okay? Anyway, after being slapped full on across the face and publicly proclaiming that I had taken Christ out of Christmas, I thought, fuck this shit. And I began to rebel. I developed a very sassy mouth and a bad attitude. I became a teacher's worst nightmare. I challenged my teachers on why we weren't learning about the interesting things like the war in Vietnam. Why, if this country is a democracy, did students have more say in their education? My challenges became personal, and I was sent to the principal's office often. He was a prick. He just added to the message that I was never going to go anywhere in life. I stopped going to school on a regular basis after he told me that I would be pregnant and living in a trailer by the time I was 16. Informative. On my 16th birthday, I walked into his office only because it was required, and I quit school. He was smug and said, I knew you couldn't have it. And I responded, the only thing I can't do is look at your ugly fucking face one more day. I moved out from home soon after that. I got as far away as I could and completely fumbled my way through. From this viewpoint, it's totally understandable that at 16, it would be a struggle to support myself and to live as an adult. But to my 16-year-old self, I was a fuck up. I was everything those people said I was. I was from the lowest class. I was nothing. I had internalized all of that, and a shadow of shame followed me everywhere. I knew it was obvious to the world that I came from the wrong side of tracks. I knew my speech, my clothing, my conduct all gave it away. And I lived in a constant fear of rejection. I felt everyone knew I did not belong. I had a huge inferiority complex, and it played itself out in my life like a textbook. I looked at other people and I was mystified at how to be like them, or to be one of them, or I didn't know the rules. I didn't know how to behave. I didn't know how to be included. I didn't know how to be accepted because I did not accept myself. I was scared, defensive, and felt totally ignorant to social cues, and I was so very angry. So, thank God for the military. I basically said, okay, I'll try. And it basically said, this is how you behave, this is how you dress, this is how you respond. It gave me praise for getting it right. I tried hard. I was relieved when I accomplished something, but always worried that someone would figure out that I was flawed. The military also offered me an opportunity to earn a pension. Now you're thinking, 17 years old, really? You thought about a pension? Yes, I did. I had watched my mother and my grandmother work and live in poverty and have nothing to show for it. I didn't know what else I was going to do with my life, but I had a chance to earn a pension. I was going to take it. And without knowing it, I had made my first goal. After I came home for basic training and signed into my National Guard unit, I spent a lot of time trying to improve myself to be like the worthy people. I watched the news and practiced speaking like the newscasters. I went through officer candidate school and became an officer. I read every self-help book I could get my hands on, and typical of the complex, kept my distance from others. Then one day, out of the blue, a thought, one revelation shifted my life. And it was that I could depend on myself. I wasn't a total fuck up. I started to look at what I was doing right instead of looking for the approval of others. I started to give myself some credit. I got my bachelor's degree, and that was really big for me because I always felt inferior next to anyone who had a degree. And after that, I said, okay, I'll go on and get my master's. And while working on my master's, I was offered an interesting job under a grant from the military, creating and installing exploration of industrial technology laboratories in middle schools. The project was 1 year. I worked on a middle school campus. I met some great people, and surprisingly, I felt very comfortable. At the end of the year, the lab was finished, and the principal asked if I would be interested in staying on as a teacher. A teacher? Me? I said, I'm flattered, but I am not qualified. And she persisted over several weeks, explaining that I could get an emergency credential because of the teacher shortage. And you see, that's what happens when you treat teachers like shit, they quit. But anyway, okay. Teacher shortage. She told me that I would make a good teacher. It was obvious to me that she wanted me to be a teacher because she thought I was the only one who knew the lab. And I can't tell you why I said yes. Maybe it was her confidence in me, but I only had one stipulation, and that was that I would not teach math and I would not teach science. I would have to teach English because I would enjoy trying math. So there I was. Before the start of the school year, I was in my classroom, arranging furniture and trying to get things in order. I had pieces of the roll book I didn't know how to put together on my desk, and I thought, what have I done? I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm not qualified. And just think of all the karma coming my way. At that moment, Mary Tweezer, a veteran teacher with decades of teaching under her belt, breezed in. I don't remember what we talked about. I do remember how she made me feel. Like I was her equal, that I was a teacher, even though I had not taught for a moment. She made me feel accepted, worthy, and welcome. I can't fully describe the amazing feeling that washed over me. It filled me with such peace and joy. For me, in that moment of such generosity of spirit and kindness, I knew I had experienced grace. I went on and taught 7th and 8th graders for 17 glorious years. I really loved teaching and I loved my students, and I had a soft spot for those little rebels. I tried to be the kind of teacher I would like to have. I wanted them to know that they were more than their test scores, that they were smart and capable, and they were loved. I emphasized it's important to have fun and be silly, and that I always wanted them to be kind to themselves and to others. Mary became my partner in some really great adventures, always loving the students and teaching. She is my very dearest friend today. She is my reminder of the power of kindness. I believe the greatest battles we fight are from within. It is sad to me that so many people in this human race are tormented by thoughts and beliefs about themselves that are just not true. And those thoughts and beliefs play themselves out in ways that complicate their lives. But today, I stand in gratitude. I am so grateful that there are groups out there to help with recovery. Mine was Adult Children's of Alcoholics. I am also grateful that the greatest life coaches have shared their wisdom and have written books. Maya Angelou said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel." In closing, to whoever needs to hear it, you are perfect, whole, and complete, just the way you are. And you are worthy of the very best that life has to offer. Thank you.
This is Mary.
What?
I'm jealous of all your students. I didn't have one teacher.
She was a fantastic teacher.
I bet. We know. We know. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you for your service. Christopher's going to play for us again. Okay. You wanna,
Yeah.
do you need this?
Yeah.
Do you need that?
No,
Do you
just like this.
Just like that.
Like that.
need- Okay.
Hey, everybody. Okay, let me just.
Christopher's back.
Hang out again. I'm back. Yeah. Gary, I really needed to hear that. I really needed to hear your piece tonight. Thank you. I mean, everyone's piece, but that was a nice thing to hear just before you're about ready to expose yourself to the world. Right? You're okay. Good. Let me just find.
We believe in you, Christopher.
Thank you. All the best. Okay. That's the one. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, too much yeah. Too much yeah. Okay. I think this will work. Okay. This is I have a very dear friend who lost her husband unexpectedly about a year and a half ago, pretty young. And I remember the night that we found out, there was a lot of shock in our community. I was here, but back in Maine. My friend sought out comfort from my wife, whose name is Deborah. And Deborah lost her younger brother about 8 years ago under very different circumstances, but also a life that ended suddenly and at a very young age. Deb once said, so Laura, my friend, that that she noticed there would be occasions of light changing, whether it was in a living room or on a street light, and that when the light would change or like flicker in a certain way, Deb felt it was a sign that her brother Tim was there. And Laura loved this idea and decided to incorporate it into her grieving. Grief certainly has a starting line, but a finish line. So this is a piece that started to come out of me the evening I learned about Ethan's passing. To me, it's a reflection of the grief, the sadness, and the memories that we carried with us, that we carry forward to remember. And every new day presents a new starting line, and maybe a little hope too. And so this piece is called Changing Light. And I promise I would do. So I'm going to do that real quick. Read new strings yesterday. Yeah, good enough. Okay.
Thanks for the new strings.
Yes, thank you, Elixir.
Street. Dana, like July? We're all neighbors. Hello. And Yak, who is handling the projections, is her husband. They had a surprise wedding, by the way. They surprised everybody with their wedding. It was amazing. So Dana did a comic for us before in a previous True Story, and she had wanted to do another one, but I wanted to give her enough time. So we were talking on the street, as we do, and I came up with the theme, the starting line, because, you start with a line. That's it. It's not an interesting story, but I wanted to share it.
It's true.
But it's true. So we're gonna project the comic book that she's written and illustrated for us on the wall. And she will talk us through it. And we also have it, if you're watching online or you're watching the recording, there will be a link to download the comic book. And we have Dana brought some printed and folded up for all of you to take home, and they will be out in the lobby on your way out. So please, no further ado, Dana Cox. Sure, thank you, Dana.
So I'm Dana, and I made a comic called Fullerton. So my first weekend of college, I came back to the off-campus apartment that I shared with two girls and saw that the front door was broken. So I said, "Hey, what happened to the door?" Oh my God, it was crazy. We invited the wrestling team over, and then some guys from the baseball team were walking by, and they started yelling at each other, and the baseball guys broke down the door, and one guy got stabbed. Oh my God, there's blood on the wall. Ugh, and on the carpet. Okay, and don't freak out, but when that guy got stabbed, we had to put him somewhere. So we put him on your bed, and your comforter did get stained. Okay. I had trouble sleeping that night. And here I have to point out that we had bunk beds, and my bed was the top bunk. So my roommates had to hoist up this bleeding guy and put him on my bed, which makes sense from their perspective. If I were them, I wouldn't want to put a bleeding guy on my bed either. But not great for me. In high school, I tried not to think about my future. I was a terrible student, so I thought my fate was sealed. I was just gonna fail and be bad at everything forever, no matter what. Why try? Your SAT scores are good, but your grades don't match. How do you envision your future? I have no future. I went through a phase where I was turning my school blazer inside out like the Fresh Prince. Alrighty. The one thing I ever thought I was good at was improv. I'm milking a cow. See? Still got it. So, I decided to join an improv group in LA, my home, and apply to state schools that were just far enough away that I couldn't live with my parents, but I still could commute back every weekend. I thought, this is a solid life plan. I also had an older boyfriend who went to art school just outside LA, and I'd still be able to see him and go to music and art shows. A couple weeks before I was slated to start at Cal State Fullerton, I still didn't have a place to live. I was relieved when Nikki found my name on a list of unhoused students and asked if I would split a 1-bedroom apartment with her and another girl. I thought, this could be great. Maybe everything's gonna be okay. Maybe we're gonna be best friends. Now, there I was. 1 week into college, the real world, sleeping under a comforter stained with a stranger's blood. The next day. I used to walk to campus every morning because I didn't have a car. And in my memory, that walk was at least minimum an hour. But I just Google Mapped to fact check and it was actually only 15 minutes. Philosophy 101 was my first class on Monday morning. Plato's allegory of the cave suggests that when we are young, we understand the world as prisoners in a cave might perceive shadows on a wall. We assume the shadows are real life. The process of leaving the cave to pursue knowledge is painful. Just as re-examining your old beliefs and attitudes can be challenging. Maybe that's what this year is about for me. Leaving the cave to be in the real world is supposed to be hard. This is just what it's like for everybody. And here I have to point out, sorry. The poster on the wall says, I oink, therefore I am. I just have to get used to it. Hi. The next couple months in that apartment blur together. There were a lot of douchey guys. You think you're better than me? I actually drive better when I'm drunk. Blink, blink, blink. Steve, stop peeing on the stove. So Steve, this guy, he was my roommate's boyfriend who loved to pee on stuff. And in this specific situation, he was peeing into a pot that was on the stove. When only my roommates were home, it wasn't so bad. We're gonna go out. Cool, see ya. We just didn't have much in common. I avoided going back to that apartment as much as possible. I spent a lot of my time at the campus arboretum by myself, listening to melodramatic indie rock. Shout out to the Fullerton Arboretum. Actually, if you're ever in Fullerton for some reason, please, you should visit. It's beautiful. I wasn't having a good college experience per se, but there were some peaceful moments. It was during one of those moments that I had an epiphany. Hey, the real world shouldn't be so shitty. This sucks. I gotta take control of my life. I'll transfer somewhere far away, take out some student loans, and let my future self deal with the consequences. See you later, ducks. In the midst of avoiding the apartment, I hadn't been checking in with my roommates very much. I didn't realize what Nikki was going through. Hey, is everything okay? She was assaulted in our apartment over the weekend. She'd been alone and the front door was unlocked. The guy who did it was a wrestler who lived in our building. I was with her when she reported it to the cops. Described exactly what happened. He was awful. I drew his face to look like a butt. I'll have to report that you were drinking underage. You washed her clothes. You destroyed evidence. Well, You were drinking. No, there's nothing we can do. I don't know, lock your door. Shortly after, Nikki left the apartment, and Sophie's coke dealer boyfriend moved in. That was the peeing guy from earlier. He was not a nice dude. He and Sophie used to scream at each other for hours at a time. What are you looking at? The fighting was so bad that we got an eviction notice because of all the noise complaints. I was able to talk the apartment manager into letting me stay for the final 2 weeks of the semester. When my last class ended, I left as fast as I could. I transferred to Evergreen in Washington State the following September. It was a very different experience. Evergreen is one of those hippy-dippy schools where there are no grades and you can build your own curriculum. So I studied things like salmon spawning and experimental animation. It was great. My roommates the first year were Callie, Sarah Anna, and Michael, and each of them was so creative and passionate and interesting and nice, and we're all still in contact today. They're the best. You're from California? Is it going to be hard for you to adjust to all the clouds and rain? I love it. It feels cozy here, like being in a cave. Thank you.
In my house, if you're just going, see you later, ducks. Thank you, everybody. I'm not forgetting anybody, right? That was everyone, right?
Oh,
Yeah. So now we have to eat all that cheese and crackers and cookies out there and drink all that wine. So thank you for coming. The next one will be October 8th. Sunday, October 8th, and the theme will be a mixed bag.
yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna do that one proud. So thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you those who are watching the recording or live stream. And that's it. That's all I got. Christopher, you want to play us out? Can you play us out?
Sure. I can
Right.
play a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
You don't have to sit
Oh,
here.
and
Yeah.
let's bring my comic books
Oh,
out
yeah.
to the lobby.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Dad.
Well, you can get up, do your thing, get some wine, get some food, I'll just play for anybody who sticks around. That might just be me.
You want a cookie, Mary?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Oh, good. Thank you.
It's great. It's great. You got that here? Yeah. It's so cool the relationship you and Dana have made over the internet, you know?
Yeah.
Share passion of drawing and making
Right.
comments. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's been really wonderful. But I think the way our styles are